And now to decision day in Michigan. The polls will be open for a few more hours. We've already seen a big uptick in the number of votes coming in so far. Turnout looks to be strong, at least in relative primary terms. So what does that tell us about the results for not only the primary, but also for the general election? Joining me now, very good to have with us Richard Czuba, the CEO and founder of the Glengariff Group, our pollster here at Local 4 and also for the Detroit News. Richard, let's start with that. If turnout is high, what is that telling us, other than just that there's a fair amount of keen interest?
Well, there's interest. Yeah. There's no question there. I think what we need to watch for is, does it come on the Republican or the Democratic side? And on the Republican side, does that mean Donald Trump is actually bringing new people into the system? Or are these general election voters who are finally engaged in a primary election?
We didn't talk much about the strategy of picking which primary you wanted to vote in, but you take a dim view. You don't think there's a lot of chicanery that usually takes place in that sort of thing?
I think it works around the margins where Democrats go into the Republican primary and vice versa, except the exception being the 2000 election where Union voters very heavily supported John McCain to kind of spite Governor Engler at the time.
We've seen Michigan political leaders try and move the primary around in years past, wanting Michigan to matter. It sure feels like it matters this year. It's the last before we get to the winner take all. We have Flint. You got a lot of keen interest in what's going on in the state because of local issues that have sort of spilled out on a national stage. Michigan feels like it matters.
Michigan does matter this time. And one interesting byproduct of this is Michigan issues matter. We saw that certainly on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, I think you've got a lot of different storylines and intrigue that are going to help get sorted out here in Michigan.
We have felt, at least it's looked in a couple of the rolling numbers that have gone on for the last week or so, that there's been a surge a bit for John Kasich. In fact, to the point where Ted Cruz had to get himself back in here, lest a third place showing wouldn't feel very good. What do you think is happening on the Republican side right now?
I think the real fight is over second place. Who's going to be the runner-up in this contest? Donald Trump has held a consistent double-digit lead. It's his to lose tonight, but the Cruz and Kasich battle is shaping up to be very interesting. Cruz can't afford a third-place finish because it hurts his narrative that he's the challenger to Trump. Kasich really needs momentum going into his home state next week of Ohio, where this race really gets sorted out.
And on the Democratic side, it doesn't feel like Hillary Clinton is taking Michigan for granted as much as she has been able to rely, you would expect, on the African-American vote. We've seen her do very well with that in other states. The auto vote that she continually rails against Sanders taking. I mean, but she doesn't feel like she's taking it for granted.
No, she's not. And I think the real issue in Michigan tonight, the real overriding story, is can Hillary Clinton put this race away? If she can win by double digits in Michigan, Bernie Sanders is going to have a very hard narrative moving forward.
If I had told you 6 months ago, Richard, that we would be down to 4 on the Republican side and none of them would have the name Bush or Christie, you would have told me.
I think I would have told you what a lot of people have been telling you. Having said that, Donald Trump's numbers have been strong throughout this, and I think people have been foolish to overlook him.
Fascinating night ahead, no doubt about it, however it breaks, and you'll be here with us. Thanks very much, Richard. We'll be talking to you throughout the evening. Kim, back to you.